You remember that there was the yes side and the no side.
Yes.
Obviously, we were on the no side at that particular point, not because we didn't like what was in the constitution. Contrary to that, there was a lot of contribution from the church, but there were some specific areas that were not auguring well with the church. William Ruto was a good student of Moi. So in expectation, in fact, why he gets it very hard and rough with everybody else is because we know that you are a student of Moi, we know that you are a student of Kibaki, and we know that you are a colleague and friend and a twin brother to Uhuru Kenyatta. Politics in this country, what I call the politics of revenge. The politics of revenge and the politics of anger. Yeah. And it's worse for us, and especially also for my current president, because he is a Christian and was delivered by the Christian vote.
Great to see you. Hello there and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Jadiel Kabiro. It is always a pleasure, it is always a joy, it is always a privilege that you join us every single day for conversations to help build both policy and politics. Here we engage with different stakeholders on making Kenya a better country, not just in Africa, but globally. I'm here with Gerald Walterfang. He's a leadership and governance expert, WDS director. They help people with careers and their professions. He's also from the Kenya Christian Professional Forum, and he's going to talk to us about what is happening in the country. William Ruto at 3. That is our conversation. Yes. It's no longer half dam. Now he has crossed 3 years. Gerald, great to see you. How are you doing today?
Delighted to be here, my good friend. It's been a long time.
Yes.
And I'm just delighted to see you and be able to walk this journey.
Yeah.
They call it the governance and leadership journey, because everything rises and falls with leadership.
Everything.
Everything.
What do you do at WDS, speaking of leadership?
Thank you so much. At WDS, we help people become better of themselves, discover themselves, and be able to navigate the terrain of what they call the career path. And we also cultivate leadership so that we have better leaders coming into this nation in the space of private sector, civil society, and even in the public service. So we work with different clientele, but we also help people navigate within the church space. And you know, there we are very faithful to the point that sometimes we forget that faith is meant to also extend us into the marketplace and be of service to other people with standards.
And then also from the Kenya Christian Professionals Forum, you're a member there.
Yes.
What is that about?
Very delighted to respond to that particular question. I joined KCPF, what is the Kenya Christians Professional Forum, in 2017. It brings together Christians who are from different backgrounds, different professions, in order for them to be able to serve and be able to be of service to the country and the spaces that they occupy. But KCPF started as a reaction to the 2010 Constitution. It was actually started by a couple of lawyers who are trying to answer the question of when are we going to get to this Constitution, the 2010 Constitution. And when they did that, they realized that they can't do it alone, and that they needed to work with other professionals. So engineers came on board, doctors came on board, and henceforth, the delivery of the 2010 Constitution, you remember that there was the yes side and the no side.
Yes.
Obviously, we were on the no side at that particular point, not because we didn't like what was in the Constitution. Contrary to that, there was a lot of contribution from the church, but there were some specific areas that were not auguring well with the church. And some of those specifics have come to haunt us to this point where we are. And now we are beginning to see people saying perhaps we should revisit the 20% that was not good. So Kenya Christians Professional Forum, all Christians who are professionals are invited to participate. And then there are a couple of pillars that when you join, that you can choose to be of service to either or any you select. So there is life, sanctity of life, protecting life. There is family, and Kenya Christians Professional Forum pushed very hard for what is the first protection bill that was passed. And then now turned into a policy that is helping us to determine and define what's a family in Kenya. So a family, and also defining very clearly the gender. There's a bit of confusion somewhere when we start asking ourselves, do I enter this toilet or that one? Or if I enter one, I come out and I tell you, hey, Kabiro, today I'm feeling like a lady right now. Yeah. So we're trying to make sure that, there's the aspect of family and then the sanctity of life. So there's life, family, and then there's also the area of religion. The government came very hard on religion. Some of us who have been in the civil society or what you call the NGO space did not find it unusual. When government is rattled, they also begin to look at your weakness. And so the churches that we have, the mainframe, they have their own constitutions and they are well guided. But there are some churches, we be honest, that today we wake up and we decide it's Papa and Mama church, and we decide how that church is being run. And if we take advantage of the congregants, they don't have a place to go and say, we feel offended or we need to be taken care of. So there was a code of conduct of the church that needed to take place. And that's now what the religion committee works on. But they also look at how to interface between faith and the marketplace. So that's the religion committee.
Do you think churches should be regulated?
Now, the question of regulation of churches is similar to the regulation of civil society. You have the freedom of expression and the freedom of, association. What I believe is that churches should have their own self-regulation mechanism. I spent over 10 years working under a self-regulating mechanism under the civil society, and I know it works. I also know that there are log civil societies and there are log churches, and just like any other place, they are bad apples. So we should have a mechanism of self-regulating. If you look at the Catholic faith church, which I belong to, there are specific administrative procedures that you follow. And when you stick to them, clearly you find that you need to adhere to the canon law, to the structure of the church. So you don't just come up abruptly from nowhere and then decide today we are doing this, we are passing this, we are saying this. No, it has to go through, and it's debated, it's prayed over, and people say this is the right direction. So for me, I would say self-regulation is better, and it helps people to become more responsible. Yes.
That is just me trying to understand you a little bit more, and for our audience too, before we get into politics. Let's get into politics.
Yes.
3 years in,
Yes.
William Ruto is with us.
Yeah.
It's now, as I said earlier, more than half term. Some were
Yes.
saying he will be a half-term president.
Yes.
But let me ask you this. Let's
Yes.
start with achievements and failures, if we say, or should we call them blunders or missteps?
Yeah.
From where you sit, how
Yeah.
would you assess these 3 years before we get into the nitty-gritties
Yeah.
of some of the policies that have been made?
Okay, we have to be candid, and I know in politics sometimes you say wacha tuchape watu vizuri ndio waelewe. Let's be a bit frank about when he took over and what he took over. In terms of him coming on board, the economy was not doing very well by that time. So you remember the debt burden that we had already entered into, close to 10.4 trillion. So he's picking up from a difficult position. He's also picking up from a position where the currency was not doing very well. He's picking up also from a point where the country is almost split in terms of coherence, of working together in unity. But he came with a plan. And this is what I always remind politicians. When you vie and compete for something, and when you sit before us, it's like sitting before a board and you're being interviewed for a CEO position. In essence, what you're telling us is that you're well prepared to come and tackle every problem that you'll find there. So he comes in with the bottom-up economic transformation plan.
Yes.
He comes in and tells us Mama Mboga and the boda will be part of the government, and they will be part of the system that he's setting up. And the livelihoods of these guys will go up, including ourselves, who are there, the middle class. And he promised us that. Yeah. And then, of course, there were things that we had. When we come in, we are, of course, going to build more houses for you, affordable houses. When we come in, we are going to make sure that education is free. When you come in, we are going to make sure that the economy is running. Yeah. In fact, I would remember President Ruto referring to Singapore a couple of times. And so he came in. Year one, tulianza na maandamano. because we normally say that when you enter into a space, you enter also as a statesman. And so we expected that kukiwa na hii shida, he'll be able also to pull his troops in and pull also the opposition troops in and be able to say, listen, guys, this is our country. But tulianza kukimbizana. Tukikimbizana, you saw the free fall of the shilling. Suddenly, you know, there's somebody who loves saying suddenly. Suddenly, yes. Suddenly, we started feeling the pinch. You saw the cost of fertilizers. We were told it will go down for a while. Farmers were complaining, right, left, center, all the way from Trans Nzoia to where I come from in Muiga. And you could see that the cost of living had gone up. And we were promised that the cost of living will be going down. It was very clear the cost of fuel was going up.
Yes.
We had been promised that the cost of fuel would be slashed.
Yes.
So within the 3 years, we can say that the things that have taken place don't leave us very comfortable. I've told a couple of my friends, I know there's all these statistics and data about the economy. My statistics and data is the ordinary person walking out there. And take a circumference of where you live or where you work and just ask people, how are we doing? And the first thing you can even ask is, can we go and have a cup of tea? And the first thing you're being asked is, who is buying the tea? Is it me or you? That begins to give you an indicator. And before, you'd look at even the marketplace, how people are congregated, and you'll see quite a number of individuals, meaning that the economy is circulating, there's money circulating. Right now, 3 years down the line, there could be infrastructure, like I was passing Taranta Stadium, a good thing. In the argument of the government, they are creating employment. But when you still speak to the individuals who are living from that place, who are working, they will tell you about the cost of living. When you talk to them, they'll tell you about we can no longer afford to pay school fee the way we used to do. We have to keep going talking to the administrators. And it's not just them. Kabiro, if you look at it, it's across the board. Across the board.
So can you single out something that you would say, the president has done this, or you would go with this argument that he promised a lot, so we cannot even see a single thing that he has done?
The promises were many. The promises were very many. The one thing that I can point out that he's done well, at least in an attempt, he reshuffled the cabinet.
In an attempt.
In an attempt. He reshuffled the cabinet as a reaction to the Gen Z movement after, of course, it stated that some of the individuals that he has are not serving this country well. So that's an attempt that he did. And you know, it's hard when you have to search for good things. It's very hard. And you know, in all candidness, you wake up and say, okay, today I'm sure even the president has done something good. So let's look for that good thing. Is it by chance or the time that is unfortunate where he is? That's not for me to say, because he knew where he was getting into. Yes. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What do you think went wrong after he took over office? You've already mentioned the country where it was economically, the division that was there, hustler dynasty, tribalism. You've just come from campaigns. We have protests. But then, why can't we single out something? Do you think it is the willingness of the president to deliver, that he isn't that willing to look at some of the things that Kenyans are asking for? Because he even came up with taxation for affordable housing.
Yes.
What do you think went wrong that up to now we're still questioning his leadership style?
Let me take it from the time we became independent. My thinking and my observation is that we have refused to learn from history. We know from 1963 up to when Jomo Kenyatta was there, the mistakes he made. And you'll hear people, how we know is that we'll hear people mention those mistakes. Now, the surprising thing is that the ones who are mentioning it could be part of the transition government that is following. So we move from there, we come to the Moi era, we know the mistakes he made. And William Ruto was a good student of Moi. So in expectation, in fact, why he gets it very hard and rough with everybody else is because we know that you are a student of Moi. We know that you are a student of Kibaki. And we know that you were a colleague and friend and a twin brother to Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes, you remember when they used to dress together,
Yes.
the same attire. From that, we expected that because you have been given this opportunity, which you fought so hard for and you have gotten there, that you'd look at all these things that never went right and you'd be able to remedy them. Take, for example, tribalism. My first shock is when I looked at the appointments by President William Ruto. And that was, for me, the first indicator that we're not going in the right direction. And because you have been there, and he mentions that he's been there for over 15 years, you know, in the area of presidency, and then, of course, as an MP, much longer. So this is a gentleman who understands our psyche, understands our environment, understands our weaknesses, and knows our strengths. My observation is he has decided to run with our weaknesses. And therefore, one of the biggest weaknesses this country has is about tribalism. And it is clearly demonstrated in the appointments, yeah, whether it's of cabinet and of the cabinet secretaries or even the PSs, yeah. You remember people complaining, why would we put Kabiro there, and for every Kabiro we must look for somebody else from a certain tribe to be the one deputizing? And if we be frank, of course, when you check the names, they come from the president's tribe. So that's a major fault that I would place squarely on his shoulders. And that's one of the biggest problems. The other is we have entered politics in this country, what I call the politics of revenge. The politics of revenge and the politics of anger, yeah? And it's worse for us, and especially also for my current president, because he is a Christian and was delivered by the Christian vote, yeah? Now, a Christian, we are reminded, ours is to forgive. There are errors that could have been made in the Uhuru regime, and clearly some could be seen. There could be things that were done and said that were hurtful. But do you fix them by repeating the same mistakes? Or do you fix them by saying, in this country, the legacy I will leave is that we shall not return here ever, all right? Let me give you an example. President Mwai Kibaki gets into office, and because he's from my hometown in Nyeri, and all the people from Nyeri are very excited. And they say, right now, tumepata wetu. So after a short while, he settles in and he is invited to Nyeri, and in a wonderful meeting with the Baraza. And then he is told, Mr. President, sasa umeshika usukani. It is our turn. Whatever that means, whether it's our turn to eat, our turn to gain, our turn to get. But the first thing, Mr. President, we would want to see is that you make our roads here. And he looked at everybody seated there and he asked them, sasa nyinyi mumeniita hapa. Mimi ni raisi wa Kenya ama mimi ni raisi wa Nyeri? And he kept quiet.
As simple as that.
As simple as that. And the message he sent is that I will build and equip Kenya. Yes, I know you are part of Kenya, but let me start out there as I come to the home stretch.
Yeah.
So for me, that's leadership. When you actually have to deny yourself. I'll give you now a practical example where I live. You know, we are told MPs are not the ones who fix roads, and MCAs are not the ones to fix the roads, if we know our true mandate of what their roles are. But this country being what it is, we all run to our MP, and for some reason they have some magic that they do, so they can move some resources here and there. In the previous regime, so I come from Langata, we approached our MP then, who today happens to be the PS of lands. And it's common. Everybody knows, everybody approaches their MP. And I went to request for, we had a pretty bad road where we were. And politicians promise you heaven and earth. And so, indeed, he came and he surveyed and he sent his team. And I remember saying, you know, we have had so many visits from people. And he said, of course, he respects you also a bit because of your age and some of the way some of our people are brought up. It's a good way. So he says, and he even says, this one we will look into. Indeed, he did look into it, and the road was made. Now, there was a catch. We cannot fix the entire stretch, so we only have a budget for a certain stretch, all right? And so this stretch, an internal debate among ourselves is, do they start with where the chair of the estate lives, which is me?
Yeah.
And they felt I deserve that for sure. And it is true, because you're the one where you're championing this.
You're going,
But I can tell you, Kabiro, when we sat down, people are like, where we live, let's do it. Start with here. But you have to look at what's the resource and what's the common good. So we decided that the common good is the main road, which was pretty bad. The others, we will be promised again.
Yeah.
And they will come back again. So we did that part. The backlash also sometimes among your own.
Yeah.
Why would you
let them?
Why would you let? Yeah. And that's human nature. That's human nature. And I was giving that because that's what happens in a presidency that is anchored on the old traditions. And why I'm saying we hold William Ruto responsible is that you have had that experience of seeing and knowing and understanding. Now, if you have the intentions of the growth of your country and you know where it has been, then your legacy would be, I shall turn around this country by demonstration and practice. In my cabinet, I will truly represent Kenya. In the resource allocation, I will truly represent Kenya. Now, the effects of that, the negative effects, is the corruption that we have had. I would state that every government that has been in Kenya has been corrupt. But the extent and the degree of the corruption is what differs.
What we are seeing
this current one seems to carry the trophy. The current one seems to carry the trophy. You just Google the number of corruption cases. Then, even when we are aware that you have been mentioned and implicated in corruption, you're the person that I'm picking and giving the most rewarding job. And that sends a very dangerous signal even to our young people in school. I watched a program some years back, and I'm sure you have seen it, of, I forget what this comedian, he's a Karasinga comedian. He used to do comedy show. And he asked the kids, what is Kenya known for? And all the kids shouted, corruption! So it's being ingrained in our minds. If you are to ask me, we have technical people in this country. We have brilliant professors in this country. We have brilliant teachers in this country. We have, you pick any career in this country, we stand to be among the top in the world. Any. But what do we not have? We do not have ethical people with integrity. People who are also what you call patriotic to this country. And that's the biggest challenge.
There's that to patriotism.
That is the biggest challenge. So if today, and I pray for you, because you are the people we'll be looking to in a few years, you happen to sit on that seat. Moi would sometimes create some cabinet, and you would also decide today, amekupea kiti fulani. So it is my hope that you would set aside a unit that, whatever you call it, but one of the things I would hope is the ethics and something unit. Not, we have the anti-corruption.
Yes.
But in this particular one, you start looking at how do we tackle the issue of corruption and ethics from childhood, from very early when our kids enter into school, so that it is ingrained in you that taking someone's item, picking something that doesn't belong to you, that in itself is a grave, grave offense. And as you grow with that, it becomes ingrained in your system, and it becomes second nature. Today, sit with anybody, even your age mates.
Yeah.
They talk about a quick deal.
Wash, mbio.
And wash. Yeah. And of course, taki kuingia kule kwingine bring. So
that is the culture we have.
That's the culture. That's the culture.
But then, speaking of Gen Z, you've talked about young people.
Yeah.
We saw extrajudicial killings, we saw abduction, because young people are relentless. They're looking at things, they're questioning things, and they were ready to take on government, ready to oust Ruto, occupy State House, occupy Parliament. Now we have compensation for those who lost their lives then. Looking at how the president handled this situation, Finance Bill 2024 came.
Yeah.
And everyone was talking about it. Everyone was thinking, this is the end of our economy.
Yeah.
This is the end of female rights, sanitary
Yeah.
towels. Of course, there was a lot of misconceptions about several things, but the communication wasn't done well too. But then people were murdered. Children died here in this country.
Yeah.
How would you comment about these 3 years of Ruto and post Gen Z 2024? What you have seen so far in his attempt to handle the cries of young people?
First of all, I would probably look at that question from a parenting lens. Ruto himself is a parent. We all know, talk to any parent, the biggest area of conflict with children is when you don't listen. When we presume we are right. And the thing is that you work hard at putting in certain codes of conduct and laws and rules that help you to be able to manage those conversations. Now, with the president, the youth played a huge role in him getting into office, a huge role. So for anything else, he should at least feel he owes them. He owes them. He owes them jobs. He owes them better living. He owes them what we call a better environment. And he owes them an opportunity for creativity, innovation, an environment that they feel they are thriving. Now, for them to come out the way they did in 2024, 2025, was an expression of what they have been observing. And why I keep saying that we need to not focus always on politics alone and economics, you need also to focus on the psychology of the country. These Gen Zs are watching their parents going through what you call quiet pain. And they are seeing it happen to them. And they are asking, why is it happening? And one of the things they also noted is that as these things are happening, the parents are just suppressed, quiet, and to many extent, depressed. And with all the education they have, and with all the communication gadgets that they carry, they decide that we will not pursue this path. And that the future that is being robbed is ours, whether it's by corruption, whether it's by passing a bill that is overtaxing the very same parents. And of course, they know that they are recipients of the output of those bills because high taxation, jobs are exiting this country. If you look at the number of industries that have shut down, it shocks us. Yeah. If you look at the number of people who have now been made redundant, it is alarming. If you look at the unemployment rate of the youth, which is now about 56 or so %, it's an alarming one. And when we get the individuals qualifying from schools, we have young people who are graduating from a high school, almost 950,000. Then you have the ones who are doing KCP, like the last ones who did, almost 1.4 million. These people are to be absorbed somewhere. Now, you tie that in with what's happening right now, even in schools, the lack of capitation being sent into the schools. You have had issues of even teachers who are becoming suicidal. I had Wamishomba even commenting because they don't know how to balance the lack of money, capitation lacking, and what they need to and require to run institutions. So it's creating a wedge between the administration, the students, and the parents. And so when the Gen Zs saw what happened, they decided the best thing is for us to express ourselves and reject what is coming because it is us who will suffer most. Yeah, we have seen these parents here suffering, and now they are going not only to suffer, but it's going to be transmitted through us. Yeah, through stress, depression, and all those things that are taking place. And so coming out the way they did was a huge signal to the government. Sit down with us. We're not just children. We understand what is happening. But at the biggest risk, it is our lives that are being taken either for granted or it is our lives that are being taken away, robbed away from our future. And so when they do that, and when they came out, they did a lot of what I say good thing to awaken us. Now, President Ruto did invite some, and this is the thing I keep saying about Kenya. He invited some were not invited. The old culture of some, now you're the one who tell me because you're the one who interacts mainly with these guys. There is the Kasamwel youth, and then there is the youth who are out there still asking what is happening. Yeah. So the question becomes, how do you interact with these young people so that you hear where the problem is? And how do you engage them genuinely? Not the way we engage our youth politically. And the political way of engaging our youth is to use them and then to promise them. And now when promises run out, people get angry. And now you don't need as we say, you don't need a nuclear scientist to demonstrate. All you need is to go on YouTube and say, let's look at effects of not listening to Gen Zs. And the latest one is where?
In Nepal.
In Nepal. And they expressed themselves. And you can tell when a nation like that, they are able to exit people and still recommend who should come and take over. It means they have been reflecting about this, not just waking up as a sudden reaction. And so back to Kenya is for the president to literally sit with these young people, listen to what they have to say, give his opinion, help them also understand where the country is, and then say, we're not doing this by ourselves. How do we work together with you to get this country where it needs to get to? Yeah? And these young people are very creative. They're the ones who, when I meet them, they are the ones always reminding me, hey, Mbuyu, hiyo wacha story nyingi. Ingia tu hapa, hebu nikuonyeshe. Hiyo contract, ulikuwa ushajua story yake? Even you are getting surprised. Hii ilipita siku gani? Aya, Mbuyu, so unaona. Yeah? So they're telling you what they are going through and what they see. Yeah.
Speaking of two ways, Ruto has decided to deal with this Gen Z problem. Have broad-based, bring experts from Raila. Raila was actually in AU vying, and then he comes back, joins government. We saw protests again in 2025 with Raila there. And then things seem not to be working. So he decides, let's compensate those who died, those who lost their lives. What do you think about this strategy of dealing with this quote-unquote Gen Z problem?
First, let me start with Baba. Huge respect for the man. When I was a Gen Z, I remember one of the first votes that I ever had as a young person was in Langata. That time it was an entire area, and the entire area was not divided Kibera and Langata. It was one, and I would follow him as an individual, as a person who is fighting for this nation and has put his life in front, has literally sacrificed. But when it came to this period with the Gen Zs, I must be very candid. I felt very sad. Because my expectation was that he would stand with the young people. He would stand with them. And he would stand with them and understand where he has come from. Yeah. So that's with Baba. But you asked the question about compensation in terms of the young people who were killed. Number one, there's no amount of compensation that can bring somebody back to life. There's absolutely none. Number two, it was not necessary for us to go to that route. It was not necessary for us to lose lives in order for us to sit down, have a committee, form a broad-based government, and also a broad-based committee to decide that we're going to compensate these individuals. So what ought to have happened, ideally, is the very thing that we have spoken about. If you have been speaking to these young people continuously, if you develop a rapport of finding out what needs to be done and we participate, the same thing the citizens are also asking about public participation, you will definitely get solutions and you will not have to have people going out into the streets. And the culture of not inquiring, building consensus, is the culture that is digging Kenya deeper and deeper into a hole. And the more we spend time using resources, money to solve problems, the more we ignore what we call the psychological process of building trust. And so you can compensate me, but does that bring trust? You can give me a certain amount because I lost my child, or I lost my sibling, but does that return the person? And the question will always linger, how did I lose this individual? And the way I lost this individual does not leave you until you acquire and attain that particular reason and purpose. Now, people keep saying in Kenya, we want the economy to thrive. In Kenya, we need freedom of expression. In Kenya, we want what you call good livelihoods. Yeah, those are the key things. And the biggest one that has been consistent is that this corruption needs to leave us, because the cost of corruption is the cost of lives that we have out there. Because if I am not eating in my home, definitely I will come out to the streets in order for you to see that I'm in pain. And for you who is in power, it's incumbent on you to ask which are the best ways of dealing with that particular challenge. Yeah. So compensation for the people who lost their lives, I would say that it ought not to be that path. I would also say, because I know there are a couple of our friends who are there and they're struggling and they got a big backlash. People like Houghton Rungu and also the young
president.
lady, the president of LSK, with good intentions. But the environment has been so toxic that nobody believes or trusts anything good can be coming out of that.
That's the problem.
And that is the problem. And that's the serious problem that we have in this country, that even today, if I were to pick you today and place you on that seat, if you do not work on the trust deficit equation, you will not last. And this current government has 2 more years to work on the trust deficit. Yes, 2 more years.
So you form anything, compensation, do this.
Yes.
No one believes.
No one believes. We don't trust.
Simple as that.
Yes.
Let's talk about SHIF, NHIF transition to SHA.
Yeah.
A lot of corruption. We're seeing CS Duale trying to deal with the menace that he says he found. Fake hospitals, fake doctors, all this that we are seeing, and everyone is thinking still on trust deficit too.
Yeah.
SHA is a conduit for theft.
Yes.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
What is the missing link with SHA that no one seems to believe it can work? And so Kenyans are simply thinking, watu wanaiba huko ndani.
Yeah. You know, Kenyans can be forgiven for thinking that, because when Kenyans were alerted to Andanis, we were told that's a figment of our imagination, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when it came out that it was the truth, then what it did is it justified every other reasonable doubt that we have. So SHA, why did we shift from NHIF? Which, when I speak to doctors privately, they say that thing was working. All it needed was a bit of tweaking inside to help us. Now you move us from that system to one where now you're telling us social health authority over who? Who are you putting in charge of people who understand what happens, who understand what runs? They understand what it takes. And now you're bringing individuals who do not quite understand what it is to be the ones in charge. And then, of course, when Duarte also comes and tells us that indeed he's found that the systems are not working, what did you say
ghost
about
hospitals,
ghost hospitals?
Yes.
How long has Duarte been in the government? Current and the previous one. And this is where the issue of trust really is being questioned. If you have been an in charge of internal security in this country, if you have been in charge of also a whole region before you became the internal security CS. If you have been in 3 governments, what is it that you don't know? For us to suddenly be told that suddenly we have found out that there are ghosts here, there are ghosts there. This story of ghosts started way during even Kidelo's time in City Hall. This story of ghosts started also way before that in governments, I remember, even during Kibaki's time, when there were some ghosts within certain ministries. So how long will these ghosts continue being there? Yeah? For how long? Yeah. And then the question becomes, as I was taught as a young man, I remember my grandfather always saying, inaitwa siri kali sababu wako na siri zote zenyu na zikiwa kali sana wako nazo. Yeah? So if we be honest, is that the ghost could be known ghosts. The mechanism of freezing the government is now very clear with what you call disbursements to ghost hospitals,
yes,
ghost projects. And to me, in all candidness, it is a scheme and a system that has been used to freeze the country. That is being used also to freeze those who are not pursuing the accountability path. And to be fair, it's the same thing we are seeing from the auditors' reports, even with certain counties. Things existing on paper, but do not exist in actual sense. Now, Kabiro, just be very honest with me.
Yeah.
In audit, in its simplest form, when I say that I shall create a certain or build a certain structure, let's call them toilets, public toilets, to be very honest, very candid, it's written in the proposals, it's been passed as a budget, it's been passed through the appropriations, bill, it's been passed through your own National Assembly, and it's being passed also at your main, at your own county assembly. It's there, it's written, it's shown.
Yeah.
I have never understood how it is that somebody would sit and say, we are just discovering these things that have not been there. Because in an audit, you go and say, there were 3 toilets. There were 3 toilets. Where are the 3 toilets? 1, 2. Where's the 3rd one? All, where are the toilets? This is the space. This is the place. This is the land. It's clearly located. The LL number is here.
Yes.
But where are the toilets? They don't exist. So it's very clear. Yeah. So it's a system, and it's not the first time.
Yeah.
It's not the first time. So in my view, there are people who have become specialists and experts in writing for us about ghost reports, in circumventing what needs to be done, and in bringing us reports that are 1 year later. Because once the year is gone, you're questioning something that has happened previous year, and you're being kept busy by the year that is preceding. So that's
the SHA issues, you're not getting it.
I'm not getting it. And like I spoke to one lady whose name I can't mention. She was a senior person also in the government. She said, I stopped following these chef businesses because I can't make head or tail. Now, this is somebody who is an insider. So we asked her, if you are an insider and you can't make head of chief chef, how about the rest of us who are out here? Yeah?
Even before we wind up this SHA conversation,
Yeah.
e-citizen, that's also something that people were talking about during the Ruto regime. Why do you think there was need to consolidate government payments?
Now, consolidating government payment is not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea, meaning that I would want to see what's coming in totality. And therefore, also having levels of authority, understanding where this money is coming from, where it's going, and then from that consolidated pot, hopefully that it is also going to the consolidated pot that is at CBK. that should be the destination. So that then when it goes through Treasury, it goes to say where it is being kept as for custody, the process of you now receiving funds for whatever use or ministry, the authority to incur, to use, should also be a sequential process that is seen, that is accountable, that is known. Now, media has it that the e-citizen allocations and collections would not end up where they ought to be. That's the media.
Yes.
And it's been circulating. Yeah. Now, why would we have government resources ending up in a place that is not very clear, in a place that even Parliament itself is meant to be questioning and finding out where are the resources of the citizen going to? Yeah. And so when you see people become suspicious, having doubt about the systems, it's because of the evidence that is coming out and what is being laid out there.
The biggest problem now with Kenyans is the economy, as we started.
Yeah.
How do we fix these questions that Kenyans are having? Can we make unga affordable? Can we make fuel affordable? Can we make, even if we're not using SHA, can we just go to private hospitals because I have money in my pocket? How can we solve that puzzle of money in my pocket? Because even there is a conversation about debt, which makes budgetary constraints. You know, how can we fix this problem that some say, when you listen to the likes of Jimmy Wanjigi and Willis, it's simple as making money, taking money back to the people and not paying odious debt?
You have mentioned the critical point. You know, people keep asking, what is this thing about debt? And you know, if we be candid, some of us were also not quite seeing it until, of course, the individuals you have mentioned, Jimmy Wanjigi himself and Willis, who expressed this very well, in terms of there's something called an odious debt. Simply put in layman's language, is that there is debt that was taken on behalf of Kenya that was not passed by the parliament. It did not go through the channels of verification as to what needs to be borrowed for what. And that debt cannot be found in anything that is development, and that debt cannot be found in anything that is has been sanctioned through parliament. But it is there. It is known because the creditors are busy knocking the door. Asking where is our money? And we in the country are wondering, okay, which money was this? What was it taken for? And when you have the experts come and check, those who do the forensic audit are telling you, don't worry, we have everything that we require. On this side, we can clearly see that this is the amount of money that was borrowed, that was allowed to be borrowed, allowed to be borrowed through parliament. And yes, we see some has been misappropriated, Auditor General will be saying, and some has been put into some good use. However, there is some amount here that we seem to see that we can't tell where it is, what it did,
who allowed the borrowing,
and who allowed it to be borrowed. And this is what is being called the odious debt. Now, I'll ask you something. When you borrow money to go and put it into a specific use, and you come and you appropriate it to us to put it into those specific uses, then when you are away, we use your name to go and borrow more money without you being aware. And then we also put it in a place that you don't know what it has done. Now, do you expect those who are going to pay for something they don't know, where it's gone, why it was borrowed, and what use it was put into? You don't. And that's what you're calling the odious debt. And it's been said, if the odious debt is removed from the equation, and we pay for the rightful debt that is being borrowed with the sanction of parliament, then it is as simple as returning the difference to the Kenyan economy. And suddenly, we will be finding truly money in our pockets. Because we don't have to be creating every tax that goes into treasury. 70% or thereabout is going to pay the Chinese, is going to pay IMF, is going to pay World Bank, it's going to pay all those institutions. And by the time you're looking at what you're left with, you're actually borrowing to pay even more for the debts that are there. So how long will we sustain that? Take a good example, Kabiro, of what was happening in Burkina Faso. Endless repayments of the principal plus interest that never seems to end.
And to decrease.
And it never seems to decrease. It keeps just increasing.
Even though we are allocating, it never decreases.
Yes. And that country had to bite the bullet. They literally had to bite the bullet and say, this has to stop. Because what you're doing is enslaving the entire generation that is there, the one that is following, and the one that follows. Yes. So that is where we are. Get rid of all this odious debt. Whoever is responsible, that's the work of now a good government that decides to stick with rules and laws and decides that if Gerald has made a mistake, then he must be held accountable. They will be able to deal with that. But let me also respectfully say that also our judiciary system needs reformation. We need to reform these institutions. It is very sad. I was watching some video, and I think it's been top of the news now, when somebody is saying that the judiciary is now is for hire. There's no justice without hiring. There's no justice without paying.
They call it juris pesa.
Yes, juris pesa. So why I still look at the president and put all these things on his shoulders is because, remember we said how many years has he had?
3.
No.
Plus
the experience. You remember when I was telling you
as an MP?
Yes.
As a minister, DP, now president.
Exactly. An individual like that has full circle, seen what happens, understands what happens. And the best legacy he can leave this country is to say, there come a time when the country is more important than single individuals. And this is the legacy I'm leaving this country. After all, he too is a father. He too, I don't know if he's a grandfather yet, I'm not sure, but I'm sure at some point in life he'll be getting there. What will you be leaving these young children? And isn't there joy in somebody looking behind and saying, look what I've done for this country? At least I can say I had a good run and I'm retiring peacefully. Yeah. Look at the lady in Namibia, what she has decided to do. Look at the gentleman in Botswana. What they have just looked at the economies and said, we must do different.
That's your expectation?
Yes, that's my expectation.
It is a leadership and governance conversation, but let's just for a minute talk about politics.
Yeah.
The president impeached his deputy. His deputy now has a heart, make Kenya great again. The Kenyan Trump, wa Manyora one, Rigathi Gachagua.
Yeah.
He impeached him, and the guy is causing a lot of trouble for the president. He has consolidated Mount Kenya, or so they say. The president is making a lot of moves in State House, bringing teachers, the latest were teachers, bringing Kenyans in State House from the ghettos, giving them borders. He has his deputy trying to play offensive. He's doing a lot in the political arena. One-term, two-term conversation is happening. What is your general assessment of how the president has handled the political aspect of leadership? Before we started, you said everywhere we go there is politics. You were telling me that before before we started. But how do you think he has handled this situation that now we are talking about 2027 as soon as 2024 actually?
You know, it is a sad affair for this nation that as soon as you enter 2022 inauguration, the campaign for the preceding term begins. Yeah. Just like Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto, they started on a promise they were twins. So was Wamanyoro and Ruto. I've always stated this, that by the time you hit the year before, the eve of the main election year, the truth of whatever was done behind the scenes, whether it was intended for good or bad, shall come out. And that is a given in any place, whether it's for senatorial positions, governor position, you will hear people spilling the beans of how we sat, what we decided, the way we decided we'll get there. When leadership is not based on trust, it is held together only by the interest. And when that interest begins to fizzle, then the differences begin to come. Now, when you're a leader of a nation, you want to build a solid team. There's an acronym I use, as you asked me with WDS. Yes. There's an acronym I usually use, is TEAM. Most people know that together, the one they say, together, everyone doing their bit, we achieve more. Yeah. The one I love using is TEAM, truth tellers. T is truth tellers. When you are cobbling up your government, were you truthful to each other? And when you're cobbling up a government, was it a government for you, individuals, or was it a government for the nation, to serve the nation? Yeah? So if you speak truth unto each other, you will have no need to start impeaching one another. In fact, impeachment is the highest sign of distrust among yourselves, meaning that you actually never trusted each other from the time you started. It was just a marriage of convenience. And now the convenience seems to have eroded. That's why you saw him rally all the troops in parliament. And this parliament that can be rallied together, and it's meant to represent you and I. Jaras is meant to be representing me, not the political, what do you call this? Not the political
class
or marriages or interests that you have. He's actually meant to be saying, we have been sent to impeach so-and-so. He should be coming back to Langata to ask us, what are your feelings? You are the people who elected me. So there's an element of truth that lacks. Then E, it's in a team, you work with people who are encouragers. The president, being the prime, is to encourage his team. But equally in reverse, they are also to encourage him and say where truthfully things could fall apart. And because you project and you predict, if we did this, role scenarios, if we did this, what is the likely outcome? What is likely to happen? And in political spaces, and I have had you before when you're hosting Professor here, is that people tend to focus too much on the political and even the economic, which is important, but they forget about the psychological. What is it that I will feel when you have done what you have done to me? So Wamanyora is impeached, he is angry, and he is very bitter, and then of course he decides also he will honor the pledge of speaking the truth where it may not have been required, but now for the public to know what took place, isn't it? And because of that, he may have a motive that is driving him, and he is going to go for it because hatuwezi kuwa tunaanza safari pamoja na wewe, nijitolee, I sacrifice, alafu uniteme. Na nimejua pia saa zingine kiatu yako mahali inaumiza. Na pia najua kuna mahali fulani hauonagi kwa kona fulani. So he is out there. And these things may look small. Look at the US when President Obama, they hosted this, I forget what you call it, the one that they hold and they make a lot of jokes about events.
We praise something.
Yeah, I've forgotten the official name. But you remember that is where Obama and the Democrats' problems began. When they made fun of Donald Trump till he turned pink. I remember it very well. And at that particular point, I remember even people who did an analysis said, Donald doesn't look too happy. And others went as far as to say Donald may be coming back and you might not like
Yes.
what he will be when he's coming back. And so when you have politics of untruth, which I normally call politricks, then what they do is they leave bitter taste and they leave a path of revenge. And the person who gets hurt is actually not the people doing it, it's the citizen.
Oh.
All right. So again, in the team, from the E being an encourager, then you have now the A. The A, you're just purely being asked to be a good ambassador. If we're in a team like we are, I should be your good ambassador. Wherever I go, I speak well of you. And when I hear people speak ill of you, I want to find out. And if it's something that I can respond to, I am your ambassador there to respond, to give the facts and the truth. If there is a mistake, and it is the truth that is being stated about the individual, it's for me to pick it and then come and sit with you as my team member. And because you're my leader, I want you to succeed, we discuss that. Then the M, of course, is about mentorship. You must be able to mentor others. And in mentorship, you also look at the team members that you're working with.
Yes.
You look at the youth that you're involving. And that is where I keep holding politicians to fault. These young people, because they are impressed with power, they are at your hands for you to mold them, to help them to pick up the right leadership skills. Even though you're going to compete with others, that there's time for that, but help them do the right things. And then compete with the others to win in a fair way. So the Manyora and Ruto story, we have not seen the end of it.
We ain't seen nothing yet.
We have not seen the end of it.
Yeah.
And what I can say is that watch the space. But meanwhile, I will be asking Kenyans, we have been treated to this for years. What are your alternatives to this kind of political landscape? What kind of politics do you want to see Kenya going through? Would it be the politics that we are beginning to see in some other African countries that have reformed? Or is it the politics of always revenge, anger, and also the politics of tribalism, and everybody cushioning corruption because it benefits you somewhere, one place or the other, which keeps reminding me about the wonderful book, It's Our Turn to Eat. Yes. Yeah.
Finally, advice
Yes.
for the president,
Yeah.
both economic front
Yeah.
and political front.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned earlier, you're seeing what he's doing at State House.
Yeah.
You have seen what Kindiki is doing with the development tours. And
Yeah.
also the economy. Everyone is talking about the economy. We need money in our pocket. We need money now.
Yeah.
What's your advice for the president as he's in his third or fourth year coming in?
My advice would be very simple. Mr. President, remember where you started. Remember where you came from. Look at this country and project where it ought to be. And when we spend the 100, the 10,000, 20,000, inviting people at State House, think about the others who are not able to come there and they are farming. Think about the others who are not there and they are mechanics, your ordinary mechanics. Think about others who are busy trying to make a living from their ordinary day-to-day. That's now on a human level, a personal, person-to-person level. On the economic side, there's something that we call austerity measures. Guzzlers going everywhere. One individual going with over 12 vehicles. Yeah? One individual telling us there is no harm in me wearing my watch, no matter what it cost me, because I simply can afford it. There is no problem with me wearing my, 17 million belt, because I can afford it. What is the psychological effect of those who cannot even afford a meal each day? And then when we are doing that, there is what you call biting the bullet. This odious debt, if it be the formula, and it is the formula that can get us out, why not pursue it? So that it releases all of us from enslavement. If we can be relieved from that and then run the economy the government in a manner that is accountable. And finally, to challenge his own members of parliament. Number one, to do their work, which is holding the government to account. Number two, making sure that they pass the right information to the citizen, but they too do their own work, the correct work. For example, when the finance bill was being passed, where were the parliamentarians before that? Why were they not able to pick out what things were at fault with that bill? Why wait until they are summoned to be required to vote for something that the public had already voted through public opinion, almost to 90%, that they did not want it? So it means that there is a culture that has been planted, that has, consolidated the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature into one. Instead of them acting independently, I would ask him to return us to a nation that respects those boundaries. And then the final one, the Constitution is there to help us. Let us follow it to the letter. That is what I would ask the president.
Thanks for tuning into that conversation with Gerald Walterfang, leadership and governance expert, director WDS, also from the Kenya Christian Professional Forum. Thanks so much for making time. We've planned to do this for quite a while, but today we have indeed sat down and had this conversation. Maybe next time you'll tell me whether Ruto will be 2-term or 1-term. That will be our conversation.
Excellent.
Asante sana.
I shall be back.
Goodbye for now.